What's going on, guys? Happy freaking Veterans Day to all my veterans out there. This video specifically is going to be a lot different than some of the other videos I make. I will get back to regular scheduled programming on a different day, but today I just wanted to talk a little bit about the veteran experience, right? There were some things that have happened recently that made me sit back and say, you know what? Maybe I should share some of the experience with people because there's a disconnect sometimes between civilians and people who served. And while I don't like to draw that distinction, because obviously civilians have done amazing things and veterans have done amazing things, there was a specific time, obviously, where I served in the military, and that is part of who I am. It is part of my makeup. I'm a combat veteran. A lot of people don't realize that because I don't wear it on my sleeve. It's something that I'm wholeheartedly proud of. I did serve 2 tours in Iraq, a total of 27 months. I was part of the surge when Iraq was getting extremely violent and terrorists were taking over, and I was part of the last combat brigade where we cleared everything out in Iraq and brought it on home, right? So I was part of both of those things. I joined the military at 17, saw a lot of different things at a young age. I'm okay today, right? So I've had to, talk to specific people and do therapy and just work through my issues and find things that I can do to cope. A lot of veterans today are struggling, which some of you know and some of you acknowledge, some of you don't realize. A lot of veterans are struggling. I was driving home the other day on my motorcycle, going the speed limit, of course, maybe 10, 15 over, but going the speed limit on my motorcycle, that's neither here nor there. But I was smelling something, right? And I was like, what is that smell? What is that smell? And it immediately clicked in my head that, hey, that smells like Iraq. It smells like this trash that is burning. There's constantly something going on in the background, this smell, this distinct smell that I remember. And it had me just like go down this rabbit hole. And I'm just riding my motorcycle thinking, oh man, that trash, that's always going to be with you. That's always going to be with you. That distinct smell is always going to be with you. Then it had me thinking, like, what are some other things that are always going to be with me? Some things that I do that people don't understand, or some things that I do that maybe you try to understand, but you've never experienced it, so you can't understand, right? The fact that I'm always vigilant, like no matter where I go, I'm always looking for exit strategies. I'm always looking for, security measures. I'm always looking for, that crowd of people. How can I protect my family the best? And while men do this and, women do it too, but while that is the signs of a good person who is being secure and somebody who's vigilant, I always see it through the lens of when I was in Iraq, cars could come through this location and blow up. Hey, when I was riding down the road in Iraq, there would be a bag of trash there and it could blow up. Hey, when I was in Iraq, falling asleep in certain positions could get you killed. Hey, when I was in Iraq, and all of these different things are things that I take with me today, for good or for bad, but are part of me because I served, because I was, in situations where it was life or death. When I was in situations where the person next to me counted on me for their life, and I counted on them for their life, and we built this brotherhood of togetherness that you will never get in any other way, because you watched as some people didn't make it, and you watched as this person saved your life, and you watched as this person, reacted to contact being shot at, and you just build, and you were in the trenches when it came to training, and you were in the trenches when it came to Iraq, and you were in the trenches when things were hard, and you were in the trench, and you're just constantly, emaciated with these things, and they're part of who I am, right? And I don't expect civilians to understand, but you guys have to sometimes understand there's a disconnect that we have, and there's this feeling that we have because of the things that we experience, right? You have to remember that I was gone for every single holiday. Like, every single holiday during certain times when I was deployed. Gone. You missed Christmas. You missed your birthday. You missed all of these different things. And then you come back home and you train for 6 months, and then you get ready and you go back in a year and you do the same exact thing. Or you don't fly home on holidays and you don't do these different things. So while we try to connect in some ways, there's always going to be this feeling of disconnect in a lot of ways, right? And you can go to therapy and you can talk to people, but these are just part of your experience, right? It's part of your experience. And I will never, shun away from that or to say that's a negative part of who I am, but it is part of who I am. Part of the reason that I can lock in so well is because I'm a veteran, right? I'm able to understand that getting up early is part of what we do. Physical fitness is part of what we do. Taking command from other people, that's part of what we do. Now, obviously, I own my own business. I am the command structure here, but I think it'd be important for people to understand when you hear people complain about things that, like, you complain about your food being cold, or you complain about it didn't come out right, or you complain about something being difficult, or you complain about your fears, and you complain about all of those things are valid because they are through the lens of your experience. But when you're telling a veteran, you know, I didn't get my Starbucks order the way I wanted it, I might look at you and be like, is that the hill that we're going to die on today? It's not as important as you are making out to be. Or when I hear people say, I'm having to wait in a line for X amount of time, I might ask you, or might be thinking in my head, is that where we're going to take this? Because we've had to wait and wait and wait. We've had to delay gratification. We've had to not see family. We've had to go through all of these different experiences. So is it a veteran for the next 40, 50 years or 30 years, however long that I'm on this earth, that's going to be a part of me. And I think that it'd be good for us to acknowledge that there are veterans out here who are struggling with that. There are veterans out here who are struggling with connecting to anyone. There are veterans out here who are struggling with the fact that you had your brothers or your sisters or whatever, and you were such a tight group, and then you all go your separate ways, and you struggle to find that group, that tribe of people again. And while I think we can do a better job of, letting you guys in, it will never be what we went through. It'll never be as powerful as the thing that we went through. Like, we saw some of the worst stuff, and this is not just Iraq war and Afghanistan war. This is World War or Vietnam, and just taking it back. This is anybody who has served in combat. And I speak specifically as for combat veterans. I don't, the people who were not deployed. You are a veteran and your experience is great. I'm specifically speaking about combat veterans. And so there are times where you might say, man, he's such a light sleeper and he can just jump up and get things. Like, I am never fully asleep. I never am fully asleep. If I am and you catch me off guard, that's a whole litany of emotions that I go through. Because I'm like, oh, I fell asleep. Somebody's counting on me. How did you fall all the way asleep? You're never completely at peace. You never will be. And that's tough. Now, I've learned ways to cope. I've learned ways to deal. I've learned ways to things that I can pour into. I have gotten better. But there are some parts of me that will always be there. There's some parts of me that will always have to deal with that. I remember probably a year after I got, or 2 years when I got out, I remember my wife was opening up a champagne bottle, and she popped it without telling me, or maybe I popped it, or whatever it was. It popped, and it was like one of the louder sounds, and it caught me off guard. And I just remember starting to cry. Like, I started to cry, not because I was fearful, but because it took me to a place where I was fearful, right? It took me to a place where, like, stuff is blowing up, stuff is, and then you become numb to all of this stuff, but you realize it's there, but you're still numb to it. So it's just like, it's such a strange feeling, and it's really hard to articulate, and it's really hard to get people to understand that you struggle with these things. And it's like, you should talk about it more, but I don't think people understand. I don't. And so to all my veterans out there, I'm going to close this video. I know I'm ranting, but I'm going to close this video out with just saying this. To all my veterans who are struggling, reach out. The number of veterans who are killing themselves, the number of veterans who are struggling, be it financial, be it relationships, be it whatever, struggling emotionally, physically, spiritually, whatever. Just know that we are all going through some form of the same thing. And the best that we have is for others to simply just try to understand. And if you don't understand, just listen. You're not going to understand what it's like for stuff to just blow up and kill a bunch of people. You're not going to understand what it's like to be driving down a road and someone just start shooting at you. You're not going to understand it. But if you can just listen, more often than not, if a veteran is going to talk about it, he just wants to get it out, and he wants to be heard. That's it. There's no judgment. There's none of that. If there's any veteran, anybody struggling, just let me know. I am so proud of all the things that I've done. I'm so proud of the things and the person that I've become. I'm so thankful for everybody who takes the time to say, Happy Veterans Day, Happy Veterans, Happy. The best thing that you guys can do is to reach out to the veterans that are in your circle. And if they want to talk, listen, but don't tell them how to process things. Don't tell them, to get over it. Don't tell them, how they should celebrate. Just listen to them. And if there's holidays, if there's disconnection, if there's, trust me, the veteran is working on it and they're trying to figure it out. Your best bet is just to hang in there with them. If you love them, hang in there with them and understand that a lot of us, 3, 4, 5 deployments, mine was 2, and it's going to take a lifetime to repair some of those things. I said a bunch of stuff. I'm not sure if any of it really made sense. But happy freaking Veterans Day to all my veterans out there. I appreciate your service. I appreciate what you've done. I'm here to listen always. You are never going to be a burden to me. I'm sick of seeing my brothers who I serve with, sick of seeing the brothers that I serve with feel like they have nobody to talk to. So reach out. Happy Veterans Day.